Alright guys, we're back in the garage today. Got the KLF 220. We finally got the battery for it. Came about 2 weeks too late. Finally showed up. They said the other one was lost in the mail. I believe that because to this day it still hasn't showed up. But contacted them. They sent me out another battery. Told me 2-day freight. Had it in 2 days. Can't argue with that. So it's a small bike. It's a small battery. We've already got a lot of real estate tied up underneath the seat. We're going to go ahead and see what else we can shove in there. Alright, with the taillights being done, we're going to move on to the ignition so we can get the tank cover mounted today as well. The original ignition, there's an issue with it. Not sure if someone had switched the cylinder or the key. Either way, it does not turn. If you notice, there's 2 wire on this one. Now the aftermarket one has 4 wires. With the key in the on position, I'm going to check continuity to make sure that we have this hooked up correctly with the correct wires. Now you can see the colors are the same. Banana plugs appear to be in the same position, but being aftermarket, never assume that it is correct with the wire color. So all we're doing now is checking continuity to make sure that with the on position we have a signal. And we do. This is essentially just a keyed on-off switch. The other 2 wires, not 100% sure, but possibly for an accessory. We check it again, and we have no continuity. So we know that in this case, the colors of the wires are the same, and we can go ahead and get that installed. Alright, one thing I noticed different between the two, the aftermarket comes with a smaller, thinner, cheap plastic nut. The OEM has a steel nut. It is a plastic cylinder, but I don't trust that plastic nut on there to bite, so we're going to go ahead and replace it with the original nut that was on there. Thankfully the thread pitch is the same. Alright, we've got our ignition tightened down into our tank cover. We've got the wires separated, 2 that you saw previously. The 2 that are not needed, we did tape them off. They are taped individually, then taped together. We'll tape them back into the harness if we ever need them for future use. We've still got them. We didn't want to completely remove them. So we'll go ahead and get this installed. The tricky part is getting it not only around the gas tank, around the handlebars, but also trying to get the reverse cable knob into place while you do it. Got to snake the ignition wires through, pull everything one at a time. So we'll go ahead and get this tucked in. Let's see if we can get the reverse cable in place. It does have a key notch, so it does not turn within, which is what we're trying to find right now. There we go. Looks like we got it. We got it in. Grab the retaining nut. Go ahead and get it started. Just in case it's not sitting in the right position, we can clock it differently and get it in the correct position before we try to tighten it down. So, alright, we've got that sitting in there. We'll go ahead and get our ignition wires plugged in. We've got brown to brown on our banana plug. Ignition is in the off position. Got the white to white. And again, the ignition is nothing more than a keyed on-off switch. So, tuck those down inside. And to make sure, we'll go ahead and try to give it a bump. And we're good. And now we have nothing. So, our ignition does work. Definitely a good sign. Now the fuel's turned off for those wondering why the bike won't start. So, alright, as I mentioned, we got our battery. So we'll go ahead and get that set in. Fits like a glove, perfect one first try. But as you can see, we've got some repair work to deal with. Years ago, the battery was actually mounted in the storage compartment because they said the seat was too hard to get off. You had to reach up underneath, way up under here to grab the latch. Unknowingly, it was missing this cable. So we went ahead and purchased a $7 cable, worked the seat latch. Now we can get right to the battery. That's why we bought a storage cover for the back. So, as I mentioned, got a lot of real estate We've got the starter relay, we've got the lighting relay. Then we also have our wiring harness and relay for our upcoming light bar. Nice thing I like about this is it's no mess. Red to positive, black to ground, makes life easy. We've got to get this relay mounted inside this compartment somehow without getting in the way or pinching any wires. And we did buy a harness for the light bar, but the plug itself, we are going to have to replace that. And of course, this is Chinese made, and it just comes right apart. You don't even have to pull on anything. Now, if you know anything about trails and riding, that's going to vibrate apart, and we are going to be SOL without a light bar. We've already taken the liberty of mounting the switch up here in the cover. We've still got to get this cleaned and painted, but I didn't want to do that until we got the switch mounted. The headlights, you saw in the last video, part 4. These are the headlights that are going to be going in it. Replacing the regular incandescent bulbs, we do have LED lights going in. However, we also have nowhere to mount them. Normally they would sit in the grill. These are aluminum housings, considerably heavier than the last ones. So they would sit in the grill, clamp in right in there. They had a metal ring, clamp them in the housing. That's not going to fly on this. So we do have to make tabs that come off the front bumper, that come off of the front rack. However, that leads us to problem number 2. This is a front bumper we have. I've already done some preliminary straightening on it. It's still crooked. It has been mended and repaired a few times. You can see someone's tried to, I'm assuming, stick weld it back together. But these have to be welded back together. Everything has to be restored before we can even think about getting headlights in there. So you'll see that coming up. Got our battery cables fixed. Negative side was completely broke off. So we got those 2 replaced. Got our positive replaced. Got everything hooked up. They did send us a charged battery. So let's go ahead and see if we get fire out of this. Sure enough, we already know the electrical system works. We've had this running before. Got taillights working, as you can see. We got juice to the bike now. No more booster packs. Alright, now we got the battery in. We can go ahead and deal with this universal kit. It's essentially a light bar kit. It does have the ability to have 2 different headlights in the front. We're only running 1. You saw that in a previous video. So we got to go ahead and get the relay installed, get it hooked up. I'm going to leave the battery connections off for now because the wires will be hanging free at the front. The last thing I want is start electrical fire and start all over with this project. So, but we are a couple episodes away from having this thing on the ground, being done out in the woods. So, but if you saw from the previous video, the front plastic's already on it. So now I get to pretzelize my fingers, pulling wire through there, making sure that it's not going to fall down on a hot engine. Alright, in the last video with the taillights, you saw me do this once before. We've got male on one side and female on the other, on the bike side, and the complete opposite on the light bar side. We've got male here and female here. The reason you do that is you want to keep your polarity correct. LEDs don't like to be backwards. If they're backwards, they will not work. So we've got our gifted light bar you saw in a previous episode. We've got everything hooked up. As I mentioned, I just had it sitting here for test purposes. This is the plug that I do want to replace because it will just come right apart in your hand, nor is it weatherproof. I want to put a better connector on there, just draped on the side. That is not going to stay like that. We'll route it the same way we did the other one, and then up through past the handlebars into our switch. Same with this. That's not going to stay just laying there. This will have mounts on it for the bar itself. Clamp it onto the bottom, onto the front rack. That'll be fixed in position. So we'll have that coming up shortly. We've got the ignition on. Go ahead and turn our switch on. And I would say that that might be plenty bright enough. Kill the lights here. We definitely have the start of the electrical. But without fixing that bumper, we are not going to be able to mount those headlights. Come around the front. I'd say that we are definitely going to light up the trail. So, one light in. We do have it temporarily in place just because I wanted to see how bright it was. And, well, frankly, if it worked. We got it for free from somebody, been hanging around the shop for a while, so we're not 100% sure if it was functioning, if all the LEDs did burn. So let's go ahead and get this undummied so we don't start an electrical fire. All right, our Bayou's starting to look like a Bayou again. KLF 220. We've got the preliminary install of the light bar harness. You saw that. We can't finish the light bar until we get the rack mounted. We can't get the rack permanently mounted until we figure out the front bumper, because they do tighten together at the front. There's clamps, U-clamps that go across them. So until we get all that taken care of, can't even begin to finish the lighting project. So we're going to take a small hiatus here and get this front bumper, otherwise known as our Lego kit, taken care of so we can get it put back together, make one out of three. So nobody wants to sit around and watch people tighten bolts on TV. So went ahead and we got our brackets installed. We got them bolted on. They are in the right place. They seem to be okay. We've got our front rack dummied up. Just have some hardware around the shop sitting there, but we've got to deal with this. We can't even begin to mount them headlights and get those hooked up until we get the front bumper taken care of, because we are going to use that as a base for the headlight install. We've got to make custom brackets to come off of the front bumper and go over to the braces for it, so we can get these mounted securely. Once we get the grill in, we've got to figure out how to do that as well, because I'm not too familiar with the Bayou. All the mounting brackets for it are just gone. So we've got to come up with something a little tricky to get that done, so you'll be seeing that shortly. But this is the headlights that'll be sitting in there once the grill's installed and in place. So between that and the light bar that's going to be on it, you're not going to miss a thing jumping out in front of you. So, but this is all we have for a grill. There's not much. I'm assuming that this at some point was an original mounting hole. There may have been a tab on the bottom of the front plastic. Unfortunately, there is nothing there, but this will sit in the front. Once we get our bumper tacked in place, get it welded up, get it fixed, this will sit right here in the front, and we will start look like a Bayou again. Hoping to have that done here shortly. Stay tuned. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We've got our battery installed, got our ignition installed. We started preliminary wiring on our light bar. Just got to tidy up some of the connections on that. A little more waterproof, a little more vibration resistant. We'll deal with this in the next episode. We'll get this bumper taken care of, get the rack fully mounted, get everything painted, match the rear rack, and get them front headlights installed. Hopefully start to get this front end finished up. You can subscribe, ring the bell, like it, share it. Appreciate you guys watching. See you next time.